getting back to the basics, some level 1 training for everybody. Rob Maclack will be presenting today, and we really encourage you guys to post your questions in the question dialog box you'll find on that GoToWebinar a screen that's off to your right. And if that screen is blocking your view to anything, there is a little orange or a little tab on it with an orange arrow button. Just click that and it will retract it over and get out of your way. So without further ado, Rob, you ready? I think you're
We're ready to go here, Carnegie. Sorry about that.
All
okay.
Right, so take it away.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me see if I can get our screen back on there again. Here we go. All right. So, yes, thank you, Carnegie. It is always a pleasure to do a Back to Basics MasterMine demo, in part because that really draws a large crowd. I'm sorry, not demo, but an end user webinar. My aim here today is to really sort of reintroduce MasterMine to you if you are an old-time MasterMine user, and for those of you who brought people from the office who are not at all familiar with MasterMine yet, but that you know what a great tool it is for you to work with your GoldMine database through your MasterMine. This is a good opportunity for there to be sort of a brief introduction to your colleagues as well about what they ought to be able to do with their GoldMine data if they had MasterMine, if they were using MasterMine. So glad you all are joining us today. We've got really quite a large group here. We do welcome your questions, as Carnegie said. Go ahead and post them. Let's also, whoops, I want to make sure that we've got our sound going correctly here. All right, so so post your questions, but the part of our aim here is at the end of the session to what we put in the marketing or in the email that went out was, we will cover. I'll stay on for as long as I need to cover whatever questions you have, and I won't do them necessarily if they are very narrow questions. We might just take those offline. But anything that's of general interest, I'll try to cover at the end under Q&A. So here's our agenda for today. Hopefully here's our agenda. There it is. Sorry, a little trouble on the technical side here with just getting our PowerPoint coordinated with the rest of it. Here's our agenda for today. What I'm going to do is give you kind of a brief overview of training and support options and talk a little bit about maintenance. Then I'll go right into the detail of our basic training. What we're going to cover today is really the basics of using MasterMine first as a sort of a share user. In other words, a share user of MasterMine is somebody who can open and manipulate and drill through and interact with MasterMine reports that already exist. In fact, interact with GoldMine through those reports that already exist. So that's our first kind of level, and then we will talk a little bit. I'll talk some about actually managing and manipulating GoldMine data through your reports, and then finally go through the create dialog itself for creating new reports from scratch. Remember, you only need to create reports typically one time, and then those are available. They remain available to clone off of and reuse and manipulate by any of your users. And then, as I mentioned, at the end we'll do an open Q&A. I just put one question there at the top here as an example, assigning and managing MasterMine licenses. We'll handle that. I'll handle that one first, and then we will go to whatever questions have come in the meantime. So also feel free to put your questions in as we go along on the basic training part of it, and Carnegie will either answer them or she'll call them out to me, and we'll handle them live here as part of the session. Okay, so let's jump right in with the training.
Really quick, Rob.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. I do want to let everybody know that this session is being recorded, and it will be sent out tomorrow. Usually goes 24 hours from now, so you'll have that to refer back to. Now, go ahead, Rob.
Okay. Now I'm free. So training and support. So what's available to you? I just want to cover this in the maintenance before we go into the actual, talk about how the product works. want you to be aware of the fact that we do support for MasterMine online. We will do reporting, data manipulation, whatever you need to do, and it is really a worthwhile cost, so to speak, to use MasterMine or to be able to use your MasterMine better by having us come to you basically through GoToMeeting and just help you get to a solution really quickly and efficiently. Of course, we want you to learn more about how to use MasterMine yourself, and that's of course why we have sessions like we have here today. But there's always a case where you want to be able to do some things and it's not immediately off the top of your head easy to do. Take advantage of our online support, and you can, in a 15-minute unit of support, which is what we sell our units in, you can get an awful lot done, move off, avoid spending 2-3 hours trying to figure something out or doing something, creating a report that's less useful for you versus just get right on with us and get it dealt with and move on. So just want to remind you that those support packs are available. We will actually, toward the end of today's session, just as sort of a little teaser to keep you on for the rest of the day, we will have a special in relation to support packs. So watch for that. And so I think that's all I'll say about on the support packs. Live training. You can, we do have set training agendas, which you can read about. They're right there on our website under user support. The website is mastermind.net, as you see on the bottom right there. So we do live training, although I'll have to say it's really far more common, since you basically pay the same price per hour for support. It's far more common for people to actually do training really as sort of a subsidiary to doing actual support work with us, because you accomplish the same things. I mean, you of course always have the option along the way to ask more questions and say, how did you do that, or why did you do it that way, or what's a better way to do this other thing. So you can sort of combine your training with your support by just simply buying the support packs. But we do have the live sort of set piece training. Training videos are also free, and they're available from our website. It's interesting, I don't really have stats on it, but I think that we probably don't get them used as much as we ought to. If you go to our website, mastermind.net, on the bottom right of the screen, there are actually 3 different areas. Oh, I actually wanted to pull up our website here.
Before you pull that up, I am going to point out, Rob, you do have a error there, 450 units. 2.5 hours.
Thank you. That is 10 units. That is 10 units there. I won't change that right now, but yes, that is 10 units for 450. So for those of you who got really excited about that, sorry about that. I'm going to bring over our web page, our main web page here, just so you can see, because I wanted to point out where here, this is mastermind.net. If you go to our main page, on the bottom right here under video learning, you will see Mastermind Best Practices, which is a link to all of our past end user webinars, not all of them, but because we've been doing this for many years, but a large number of recent ones that you can watch at will. They're typically 45 minutes to an hour long, and they cover one or another topic. In this case, we're doing a very broad one, back to basics, but usually it's a more specific topic. Then learn about MasterMine. These are more webinars that we did that were specifically for subgroups of our users, and you can go there and just sort of browse what's available. And then there's also a long archive list. There's slightly different flavors of how you approach your learning about MasterMine there. Just go ahead and try those out. Really encourage you to work with that stuff, because it's all free and it's all available online. And I think that's all I'm going to say as far as training and support, unless, Carnegie, you think I've missed something.
I think you did good.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to maintenance. Want to mention maintenance to you because you are all end users on this call. Some of you are current on your maintenance, and some have let it lapse in the past. If you have, well, let's just be clear. What you get with MasterMine maintenance, you're paying basically 20% of your original purchase cost, and what you get for that is updates of the MasterMine software, both updates and upgrades. And it is important to keep your MasterMine current with, because later on when you upgrade your Excel or you upgrade your Windows or your GoldMine, any one of those things can cause your MasterMine to suddenly stop working on you, and then you're sort of out of luck and you have to rebuy MasterMine. Or you have to at least come reinstate, and I'll talk about that here in a moment. With that, you get your updates. You also get unlimited tech support. And tech support is making sure that the software is working properly. So if something about your environment changes, you need to install on new users' machines, you're not really clear how to do that, you want to get it installed on a terminal server, any of that stuff happens, you do get tech support covered with your maintenance, no extra charge, we just get online with you with GoToMeeting. To reinstate your maintenance, if you have let your maintenance lapse, it does cost you more to reinstate it than it would have to just continue on paying the maintenance from year to year. So we do encourage you to keep on doing that. But just in case you did let it lapse, what I want to encourage you to do is talk to your MasterMine sales rep. If you don't know who that is, just call our general number and ask for someone who can help you. We can give you a quote on what it will take to reinstate. The reinstatement is different depending on how long you've been lapsed and what version you last had of MasterMine. And in fact, your price to reinstate will go up when version 8 is officially released. Now right now, version 8 is available. So you can upgrade to version 8. If you have lapsed maintenance, you will not get a new license for it though, so it won't work for you. So just be sure and reinstate before you install the newest version of MasterMine. So just wanted to get through that stuff. That's kind of the housekeeping stuff. Let's get down to our basic training, the actual meat and potatoes, what we're talking about here today. Now there are a lot of topics related to using MasterMine because it is really a full management tool set for using GoldMine, or at least that's what how I like to refer to it, because it basically covers not only the reporting, but it does cover all the reporting, but not only that, but also data management, and essentially it's a way of making Excel work together with your GoldMine in such a way that you can get to anything that's in GoldMine, make it visible, make it available to other users, pass around information via Excel, and then actually mass update GoldMine data all from inside of Excel. Now that mass updating capability, that's limited by the license that you have, the ability to create reports, original reports, it's also limited by the licensing that you have. So there are some differences there, but it's important to know that there's just an awful lot that you can do with MasterMine that makes it easier to work with GoldMine. These are the topics that I chose to cover today. I'm going to focus to start with, as I said, on what the simplest end users would need to be able to do. I'm going to kind of build on from there. So that's the last slide until we come back at the end. So let's just switch over to our demo database here, which is there, and we'll start to dig in here. So as you may have noticed while you were waiting to get started here, some of my reports that I would have wanted to launch right from the start here from the taskbar are not available for me here unless I redo this. Hopefully I'm just going to see whether I actually do still have that new report that I created. Yes, I do. Okay. So what I did was I created a new report in MasterMine just for the purposes of what we're doing, and I made it so that it launches from the taskbar. The reason I wanted to do that was your simplest end users of MasterMine should have, they don't need to run through a create dialog to create a report. They don't even need to use the MasterMine launch dialog if they've only got a small set, 2 or 3 or 4 reports that they would use. So those kinds of users, sales reps, common sales reps, maybe even the sales manager if they're not personally involved in reporting and so on, they might just have a few reports that they can launch right from one or another of these menus in GoldMine. So for them, the whole create dialog that I'm going to talk about later is kind of a moot point. All they need to do is know that when they go to their set report that's been deployed to them as a GoldMine user, they just need to click here to launch. So, and clicking the button to launch not only brings up Excel with their report ready to go, it actually queries against the GoldMine data as it's opening. So what we see opening up here is an actual, as of this moment, accurate MasterMine report. Now this particular one that I chose to just bring up here is a sales forecast report. And a typical report that's deployed to somebody, that's, in other words, a finished report, would likely have maybe some other aspects to it. It would be, you might have several different tabs in here that are different views of the same information. It might be all set up with a logo at the top left and, formatting that basically makes it quick to print out if they want to print it out, that kind of stuff. But for right now, so what I'm going to work with is this as a sort of a starting report, and I'm going to talk about how an end user might manipulate this and set it up to do different things for them. And I had it come up in this way so that you could see GoldMine in the background and so on, just so you can see that context of it. I will go between having it full screen and having it a little bit smaller just for convenience in demonstrating different things here. So this is what I might call a typical sales manager's forecast sale report. It shows year by year, month by month, and with the sales reps going across the top, what is actually forecast out in GoldMine. And there are a few sort of simple manipulations that I would expect a typical sales manager to be able to do within their report. And I'm going to start by actually cloning this report. I think that it is always a good idea for end users who have a report and are just going to try out, let's say, a different view, or they want to change a setting but they still want to be able to go back to the original report as they started, to clone off from where they are, because it's very quick. It's on the MasterMine toolbar. The leftmost button here, by the way, refreshes your data, so that literally if I click it, that hits the database and updates very quickly. Usually that will be very quick, almost invisible how fast it is. But if it's refreshing tens or hundreds of thousands of records, you might have to wait a few seconds while it finishes. But normally I'm going to go to this next button here to clone the worksheet. Click the button, it creates a new sheet inside the same workbook, so we actually have two identical tabs here. But in your second tab, that's where we're going to rearrange this. So let's say this is the sales manager's report, and what they really want to do is they want to do a report of just Tina's forecast, but with a different layout. So I'm going to take the user ID field and I'm going to drag this field from the column area into the data area. And let me just pause for a moment here and talk about what I just did. So dragging fields in and out of the pivot table in these different places, there are really only 4 areas within the pivot table to work. I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail about this because we just did a webinar about this in December. That's one of those recordings that you can easily go to that's specifically just about the areas of the pivot table and what it means to drag into different parts of it. Highly encourage you, if you did not attend our December webinar or haven't seen the recording yet, to just make a note. You'll be able to easily find that from our website and go and watch that. I think it's 45 minutes or so, just on the topic of manipulating the pivot table. So, but this is a sort of thing that I really expect an end user to be able to do. They may feel uncomfortable about moving a field. Oops, I drag it there, and what happened to my user ID? I don't really know. That's okay. You can undo. There's always an undo button there. Now that's at the top left, the sort of standard Excel undo. There is also a Control-Z to undo. So if I'm going to just hit the Control-Z, accomplishes the same thing. And if you drag a field, let's say off the screen, oh, it's completely missing. Well, it's not completely missing. It's still available over here in your well. But again, undo again brings it right back to where you were. So experimenting and playing around with this should be relatively easy for end users within the sort of simpler kind of functions that I'm talking about today. Now what I said was I wanted to do a report for my sales manager that's just going to look at Tina's sales, Tina's forecast. So I moved the user ID up to the top of the pivot table for filtering. I chose Tina. I only want to see Tina for this report. And because I'm choosing one item here, that shows up at the top. It'll be part of my ultimate report as sort of a header at the top. And by the way, anytime you want to know what is this going to look like as a printed report, just go up to the page setup button under MasterMine, and this is just your regular Excel page setup thing that allows you, there's actually a lot of settings in here for your margins and your headers and footers and so on. But this also has a button in here for print preview, so you can actually see, well, what is this actually going to look like if I were to print it out? And you can see the header, there are default headers and footer setup for MasterMine reports. Sometimes you by default put a logo even up on the top left, and you can take out the grid lines and really have this look like a very polished, standard kind of report. I just wanted to, at this stage anyway, point out just, there's the preview that's there really at an instant anytime you need it. Don't close that, by the way. Just go back and continue to work with it. If you hit the close button, you'd actually be closing out of Excel. And in this preview for Tina, this is showing month by month. What I really am going to do is I'm going to show our 2014 sales by product. Okay, so what that's going to involve my doing is I've already filtered only on Tina. I'm going to use 2014 as a filter, and I'm actually going to choose to do my months in columns going across the top. So it'll say September, October, November, December for 2014, and my products down the left-hand side. And again, it's really just a matter of dragging the fields to their respective places. So again, I just dragged on year to the top. I'm going to choose 2014. I'm seeing lots of other years in here because there's other data available in the database, but they don't happen to be Tina's sales. Tina stopped selling apparently in 2014, so that's where I've got the last of her information. So there's 2014. Again, I said I was going to have my months in the columns going across instead of in the rows on the side there. So I've got my months going across, and then I said I would show these by product. So I'm going to pull my product field from my pivot table fields area. Now if your go to webinar dialog, by the way, is covering up the right-hand side of your screen, you can minimize that. There is a little bit newer dialog there, but you should be able to find the button to minimize it so that it's not in your way. And so you can see me left-click on product, drag it over to the left here. I'm going to drop it on the word total, which at the moment is the only item that's in the row area of my pivot table. As soon as I add the products in there, now all of the individual products plus the total are all in the row area of my pivot table. So, and you can see the areas of the pivot table outlined in blue. Row area on the left, column area up here, sort of in between the data area that's down here, and the filtering or the page area at the top. Those are the only 4 areas that you can drop MasterMine fields into, or these fields into. So as you learn about those different parts, that will help you to work with your pivot table. I don't think I need to repeat about watching that pivot table webinar. So that's a rearrangement of this report. Now, if all I were doing was creating a new version of this same report, and I want to encourage you to think in terms of that, every report that you have is also a template to make any other number of reports out of. All you really need to do once you've laid it out how you want it is to rename the tab how you want it. This is our 2014 Tina sales by product. So I'll just give that report a name that makes sense. And then, again, I can go to my page setup, look at how this would look if I printed it out. And in fact, I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to go to the sheet and I'm going to turn off the grid lines just so we can sort of see how that will look. And there you go. That is a remaking of the same report into a new one with just a few manipulations in terms of shifting fields around, and that's what the printed report will look like. And the rest, I'll leave it to your ingenuity to figure out how else you might want to arrange, work out that type of report. There is grouping within the reports itself. So I'll take, let's just do 3 groups of products. So I've got some products that were quoted through QuoteWorks, others that were not quoted through QuoteWorks. I'll just do some grouping inside this report. Now in this case, now I'm moving to the Tools toolbar. Let me just, I did want to say before I did that, the other tools that are down here under the MasterMine toolbar, I'm going to be going back and forth between the reports and the toolbars. Think of these toolbars as things that you use all the time to either interact with your report or to refine it. What's on the MasterMine toolbar is really meant to be sort of a left to right progression where you organize your report or arrange it how you want it. You clean it up in terms of like removing things from the tab, deleting sheet tabs. I'll talk about those here in a moment, or deleting fields that are, or hiding fields that aren't needed, that sort of thing, getting it all set up to what it would look like if you were going to deliver it. Then there are the delivery options, and with the delivery options you can set security on the report, you can share it with other users, that shares what puts it on your GoldMine taskbars, you can take snapshots of it and send those snapshots to users, schedule the report to print on a certain, every Friday morning at 7 a.m. or whatever for your weekly sales report, so you can schedule reports to go. So all those delivery options, and then the last parts here, these are just about working with MasterMine a little bit behind the scenes, user manual and so on. So that's the main MasterMine toolbar. The tools, Tools, this is a little bit more technical. This is the kind of area where I probably don't expect actual end users, the real sort of just pop it open kind of users to learn about this stuff. But these tools are available to everybody, including your share users. And I'll come to these. I'll go to these in a little bit more organized fashion here in a moment. But I did want to just make use of one right now, grouping items within the pivot table. So I'm going to group these products that were quoted through QuoteWorks. So I clicked on the button I highlighted them first, and then clicked on the group selected. What that allows me to do is actually make this to simplify my report. These are my QuoteWorks quotes, let's say. And then I've got two other categories here. I've got gadgets that are types of products in my data. So these are gadgets, and these are widgets. The reason I want to kind of go through this with you is simplification purposes. So before we were looking at it in greater detail. Now I've made it so that I can actually get this down to just 3 line items here, each of which is all rolled up. So if I just click the roll up button here on each one of these, I've simplified my report dramatically. I've given myself, from an overview of the organization perspective, a real kind of a simple view. So these are all of our forecasts within the QuoteWorks ones, all of our forecasts for the gadgets products, all of our forecasts for the widgets, and every one of these is a rolled up number that is derived from the individual sales records that are in GoldMine. This roll down, roll up capability, I do want to sort of highlight that, but it's not much really to teach about this, except that it's every item within a row, as long as you've got greater detail to the right, will roll down or roll up. If I take that out, if I take out the greater level of detail, then those pluses and minuses disappear. But if I want to be able to roll these up and down by product, I just have to have the product available there to do it, and I can roll up, roll down. Now, why do I want to roll up, roll down? I think that maybe that should be fairly obvious. If the user is actively interacting with the report, they're able to see the the summarized version as well as the detailed version and get from one to the other very easily. Now, another reason to simplify this is sometimes you want to display this information graphically. For that, I'm going to go up to the Analyze toolbar of the under Pivot Tables and just display this as a pivot chart. So this is just a simple selection under Pivot Table Tools. You have all of the possible ways of doing charts and tables and pie graphs and everything else that you can think of inside of Excel. So we're really just using what's built into Excel here to make it easy. You even get within later versions of Excel these sort of previews. So this is what this chart will actually look like, even though all I've done is select the type of chart, and I can go to other ones and sort of test that. Do I like that as 3D? Looks great. Okay, let's do that one as a 3D column chart. And I hit OK. It becomes a floating window inside of Excel that I can use to do my reporting. And even within that, you notice when you have the chart selected, there's a whole different set of tools associated with pivot charts. So you can set this up to, display this very nicely and hide the different buttons within here if you want to do that. To simplify the display. All of this is just built-in Excel stuff. You can learn about this, from your Excel manuals, or you can play with it. I mean, it's really not all that complicated to do. The beauty of this, of course, is what we're starting to form is a dashboard. without really doing any programming, we've just arranged reports. We've arranged, in this case, our forecast sales in such a way that we can easily do a nice dashboard picture. And you could do several different views of this. You know, these are Tina's sales, but if we wanted to, let's say, copy this pivot table on the same page, so I just highlighted it, copied it, and do a different version of it where this one shows Bill's sales, and do a bill table, a bill chart that goes right with that one. I mean, you can see very quickly you can put these elements together to set up a nice sales manager's dashboard. So I'm going to hit the Save button here. I think it's always a good idea to hit Save once in a while, and point out this this Share Report functionality. In a moment here, I'm going to go into a little bit more of the detail of what an end user does, but this is sort of giving you a peek ahead regarding reports that are shared. So as I mentioned before, once you've set up a report for somebody, if you click the Share Report button, this will look back to GoldMine, find all your GoldMine users, and allow you to choose a user onto whose taskbar in GoldMine you'd be able to add this report. So if I hit the Resave and Link button, this would actually put this report onto Nancy's taskbar, so that literally the next time Nancy logs into GoldMine, she'll have under her MasterMine taskbar a sales forecast item that you can just click on, and it will pop up this report as it is right now. Maybe I wouldn't want to put that on Nancy's. Maybe I put it on Tina's or Bill's taskbar in GoldMine, but I think you get the point. Okay, so that sort of is the full circle of opening a report, rearranging it to do different things, saving that report, and then actually sharing that report either with you, the same user, or with a different user inside GoldMine. All of that is kind of hopefully kind of closes the circle for you as far as how end users can manipulate and sort of multiply reports or make reports that are related to the one that started. So the next thing on our agenda here was to talk about drilling down and accessing GoldMine data. So now the drill down, the simplest drill down is really just double-clicking on any number. And this is true for any MasterMine report. Any MasterMine report that's got information in the data area, you can double-click on it to see the detail that's behind it. And usually I try to encourage people to think in terms of the interplay between the pivot table sheet and the drill down sheet. In other words, sometimes what you want to do, I have people who say, well, I'm used to working with data in an Excel spreadsheet, so just how do I get it into the spreadsheet as a regular spreadsheet rather than as a pivot table? Now I'd encourage you, don't give up on the pivot table too quickly. There's an awful lot you can do in terms of ways of displaying data with it. Again, go back to that pivot table and it'll show you that pivot table training. It'll show you how to do summary reports like this, as well as build line listing reports, just dragging a bunch of fields in to actually do what's more of a traditional kind of a report. All of that's available, but at any moment from the pivot table, if you set it up in a useful way, you can double-click to drill down and have a traditional line listing report. So if I'm interested in a report that shows me, let's say, Tina's 2014 October sales of widgets, that's a lot of criteria to set, but that's what this number represents. If I just double-click on it, that of course gives me the detail that's underneath that. And so this spreadsheet really is, the spreadsheet presentation here really is in a sense, another report, because after all, it is lines and columns and just what you sort of expect. It's all that detail, and it is not only is it a report, but it's a tool. It's a way of actually manipulating or working with this data at the GoldMine level. So the drill down page, this whole drill down functionality here, offers you a number of important ways to interact with GoldMine itself. The most important one, of course, is double-click to pop up a GoldMine record. So your regular share users have this capability, as well as your create users and your MasterMine or your master users. So as they're working with a list like this, let's say this is a forecast sale report, and after all, these are past due sales. This might be the sales reps opportunity to follow up on some past due sales that they didn't realize were falling through the cracks. Well, how are they going to do that? Well, they could just look at this list and go over to GoldMine and type in print systems and so on, or they might use this as a tool to interact with GoldMine. So if I double-click here on print systems, it's going to pop that record in GoldMine. Now that goes to the actual account record itself. So if I show you pending, of course, there's a number of different pendings here to choose from. We've also given you the ability to actually pop the individual activity. So in this case, the activity is a sale record in GoldMine on the pending tab. So if I click Edit Activity, that will not only pop the GoldMine record, but it also pops up the forecasted sale itself. And this user could go in here and say, well, you know what, this is actually still a live opportunity for us. Let's move it up to this month and change the date on it. Say OK. Don't need that GoldMine screen there. So we updated that one sale, and so now it's hopefully, yeah. So now it shows up under today, and we might have updated anything else about it, the date, the person, whatever made sense. And I could just go back and forth between Excel and GoldMine. Now here's where I'm thinking that it's usually a better idea to have this within a window inside GoldMine, so you can actually sort of go back and forth between Excel and GoldMine. So go to PCM systems for the next one, back to Excel again, and really sort of stay in context as you are working down your list here. Talked about popping records, about editing the activity itself. You also might want to address these group-wise in GoldMine. In other words, all the ones that were going to buy a widget C as opposed to widget B or widget A. There's different categories in our products, presumably here. So, or let's say like the C's and the D's, just to sort of so there's more of them. So these are the companies, right, that we have forecast to buy these different flavors of widget in this case in October of 2014. Let's do another activity with them. Maybe we want to use our pivot table or use our selection here to set up a subset or a segment of our GoldMine data that we're going to do something with. And that something might be send them an email. It might be do a global replace and update a field in GoldMine with it. It might be assign it to a sales rep, a different sales rep to follow up on those, or assign it to an admin person to do some work on those. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as you can approach them group-wise. So what this does is allow you then to create a GoldMine group from those. And these are I'll just arbitrarily name it something. Widget C and D, maybe put that group under a different GoldMine username, or if I'm going to assign that group. But the whole purpose of it being very quickly create a group on the GoldMine side that the GoldMine person, and by the way, if they're duplicates, they're going to show up here in blue, so you're not going to have the same record added to the group more than once. So that on my GoldMine side now, if I wanted to, let's say, send an email to them, I would go up here to schedule, I would actually take an action, do an email merge, and let's hope I've got a template here to work with. Yeah, so I'll send this template, the you need a widget template to that group that I just created, and the group I created was called widgets C and D, widget C and D. And at this stage, I can choose, am I sending it to the primary one or the additional ones, hit OK, and right away have that email go out. So that's just sort of one example of where you use GoldMine groups. If you've got some experience working with GoldMine, part of what we're really doing here is leveraging the built-in tools that hopefully you already know about within GoldMine. And if you don't really know about those, or the interplay between the convenient access that you have here in Excel with the tools that are built into GoldMine, talk to us, get some training, do some work with us with the support online. Okay, one last kind of major thing that I want to point out here in today's session with regard to the data that's on the spreadsheet. Here again, I'm going to actually open this up so we see all of Excel. And that is Updater. Updater, again, as I mentioned before, is a tool that's available by selective licensing. It's not something that all of your users have available to you. But for those that do have it, it's very powerful because you can manage your GoldMine data from here. If we decided that what we wanted to do is go in here and change all the ones that say widget C to actually have an activity code in there of C and change it right here in Excel. Now what I'm doing here didn't actually change anything in GoldMine yet, but you can see how going across a whole bunch of records, in this case even activity records, so these are actual sale records, not the GoldMine account records. We can update them from here. By the way, we could update the actual GoldMine account record. We could take, for example, the total of their past sales and update that into a single field within the GoldMine record so that you actually had an updated sales to date field right there in your GoldMine record. That would be an example of one use of this. I'm just going to show you a little slightly different example where we'd be just updating the actual account record or the actual sale record in GoldMine. This is Updater. I'll go ahead and run through it just as an exercise to indicate, okay, we'd be updating the activity code field from the activity code column of the records that we have selected. That's essentially what that is. We select what we wanted to change. So just changing it in Excel doesn't update the records, but it's almost like that. It's close to that. And I'm going to actually take this off test run and update my records just so you can see that it's very quick and effective. When you update those records on the GoldMine side, it creates this new tab. So the tab that we did our changes on was sheet 5. This log sheet tab shows us what was originally there, what's the new value. If you want to see what it actually looks like, I can go ahead and go back to my drill down tab and actually pop up this Chambers Assembly Forecast Sale with John Harper, just to show you that the activity code has been changed from an A to a C. So here's the record, here's the C in the activity code that's been updated, and sort of close out on the updater part of this, sort of indicate that even when after you've updated data in GoldMine, if you want to put it back to the original values, you can always do that. As long as you still have this workbook with this log sheet in it, even if you closed it, saved it, came back a week later and said, oh, wait a minute, I really did want to have those back to the original values, you could do that by going to this log sheet and hitting undo. And it puts those values back. Why don't I go ahead and illustrate that the A is back in the activity. So you see it's changed back to A in the activity code. Okay, so that's the sort of quick exposure to Updater there. Think of this not just as a cleanup tool, although it certainly is one, but think of it as a tool that you can use to normalize your GoldMine data, to reassign leads in a very hands-on sort of fingertip control sort of way, to manipulate data. I've seen people take, let's say, the product field and only take the first 3 characters of it and pop that into another field someplace. I mean, there's really a lot of manipulation that you can do with your GoldMine data that essentially what you can do is use it to force your GoldMine data to reflect the way you've set up the user interface. So even if you've changed the way you code things in GoldMine, or you've changed the way you organize your data on the front end, you still need to go back and make the back end data conform to what you did on the user interface. And this is a great way to do that. You really ought to be able to have a good deal of control over your GoldMine data now. So obviously, at this stage, we've sort of moved beyond what I would call the regular share user working with it, and we've really gone into the interacting with GoldMine part. The drill through part of it, drilling through to an individual record, that's something end users can do. But building GoldMine groups and manipulating data with Updater, that's all obviously something that's a little bit more advanced. Okay. So I'm going to do a few words on managing reports and then create. We got started a few minutes late, so I apologize. We're getting close to the end of our hour, but I want to cover that as quickly as I can and then get to the question and answers. As I mentioned before, I want to cover all the questions that anybody has. So managing reports. What I'm really going to talk about here with that is the launch dialog. So everybody who gets MasterMine, share, create, and master users all have available to them this launch dialog. The launch dialog will keep track of your MasterMine reports. So when they get created, when they get created and saved, they're automatically saved into one of the folders that displays here. In fact, if you save it to a different folder, that folder will start to show up in this tree, and any other Excel reports that are in the same folder will show up there. So you can actually traverse your MasterMine reports just by changing different folders, or traverse all the places that you've saved them, and pretty quickly find anything that you've worked with in the past. If a different user creates a MasterMine report and saves it, let's say, to a network location, and then just tells you, hey, I saved it to that network location, that's not going to show up in your dialog here until you actually go and navigate to that location with the open button here on the launch dialog, and then this will open a regular Windows dialog that allows you to navigate to wherever that network location is where that report is saved. And as soon as you open up a report from there, again, that new location will just always from then on appear in your MasterMine launch dialog. So I already talked about sharing them to the taskbars, so really that was really the main additional thing that I wanted to talk about as far as sharing, saving, cloning. I guess I should also point out that because it's Excel, people don't often remember, even though it's MasterMine, if you do a save as, if you're in Excel and you do a save as, file, save as in Excel, you can name your new report anything you want to, save it into, onto your computer or into a different network location, and as soon as you save it, it's available to you in that other place as well as other users if it's network location. Okay, so finally the create dialog. Let's go back to what it takes to create a new report, and this will be the last segment here as far as the creation, or as far as the basic training on the application. Obviously, there's a lot more topics here to cover, or a lot more the depth that one could go into. My aim here was to give you a flavor of the kinds of things that you should be able to do, as well as to give an end user who's really got no experience at all some starting tips so that they could get going with some MasterMine reporting. So finally, the create dialog. So this is for creating brand new reports from scratch. Again, if you've already done a report that's close to what you need, you don't need to go through this create dialog. Just open that other report, rearrange it, do a save as, and you're good to go. You don't really need to go and create a new original one. But if you're just starting out and you want to create a report against main GoldMine information here, let me just kind of bring up both of the dialogues together. So normally you would run MasterMine from inside GoldMine. You'd click on the create within the launch dialog. This dialog and this create dialog comes up. Essentially what you're doing is you're choosing generically from an area in GoldMine, main contact information. You could do main and additional, which would give you both main contacts up here as well as the additional contacts that are under your additional tab. And when you do that, your report would just include all of those in parallel as though they were all a flat database that had all of those individual contacts. So if you're doing company-centric reporting that still goes across contacts, you'd still be able to do that by choosing your additional contacts here. Likewise, actually turn that off, just turn it off to return us to our original state here. Likewise, you can do reporting from your activities. I think you might have seen me before do that basic forecast sale report by clicking, oh, excuse me, you didn't see me do it. By clicking pending, that allows you to choose which types of pending activities you want in your report. If you want pending sales, for example, all I really needed to do to get to that forecast sale report that we were looking at before was that. I hit pending, I hit sale, I named my report sales forecast, and I hit the finish button. That literally was all I had to do to get them in there. The fields that I included the default fields, but at this stage you can add any fields that you want to, and these can be fields from the contact level. So in this case, say the zip codes of all the people, so that's actually contact level information related to the pending sales, or even the user-defined fields at the contact level. In this database, we've got a, are they naughty or nice field. It's a user-defined field that would allow us to do reporting on, just our forecast sales to naughty people and our forecast sales to nice people, and anything else. So basically, any other criteria that you have in GoldMine can affect how you filter your report or what you display. And I want to point out also that with the tools inside of Excel, this is the way you create them. With the tools inside of Excel, it is also possible under MM Tools to add a field. If you forgot to include the field when you created it, or somebody else created the report but it was just shared with you, but you need to add in a field that wasn't included, you can do that. You can click on Add Field and bring in a new field from the same tables. It has to be in the same tables that are already in the report, but other than that, there is no restriction there. So back to our create scenario here. So that's the main the sort of generic creating of reports. And everything else, once I hit the finish button, everything else is just inside of Excel, and it's the same skills we talked about before of working with the pivot table. The last thing I'll point out here is templates. So within MasterMine, there are 130 some templates. If you have not experimented with these templates, basically what these are is when you choose Use Template over here, you can browse down here and just see all the, there's reports, reports that are pre-existing for management of GoldMine better, to clear out the alarm calendar for these users who get overwhelmed by their alarms, or to look at alerts, or to look at any of the things that are out here in GoldMine. By having a selection on the left-hand side, it limits what you see among the templates to only the templates that relate, in this case, to pending. But if you just wanted to see, let's say, the opportunity templates or the project templates, or list all of the templates that are available, it's just a matter of selecting, selecting on the left-hand side. You also can search for them by name. So if you know there's a report in here, or you think there might be a report in here that relates to, I don't know, email addresses. Now, there's nothing under opportunities for email, so let's go to all. And if you wanted to show just the templates that have email addresses in them, or email data for that matter, you might search on the word email, e-mail or email, whatever will work, and that will just show you all the templates that have the word email in the name or are about emails. And then from there, choose whatever template you want to use. That does the settings inside the Create dialog, so selecting it actually does give you the appropriate fields, although again you can add additional fields to that and hit the Finish button. And again, then you're just off and running with the same skills that we talked about before. So that's the basic training. A real kind of a whirlwind view, I know, but that is essentially, we've covered all the major parts of MasterMine and how various users would interact with their reports or interact with GoldMine through their reports. So those of you who stuck around because you really want to get to our special for today, let me continue on, and then we'll do our Q&A. So I'm going to, actually I'll just sort of leave that, I'll leave that there, and we'll go back to our PowerPoint here. So here's the special that I set up for today. If you want to get a support pack of MasterMine, and you've hung with us for this long, call us up, let us know that you were on this meeting. This is the only place that we're offering this special deal. It is available to you until next Friday, which is April 24th, and we'll give you 10% off of a support pack. If you already have some support but would like to add to your existing support, this is a way to kind of get, you know from experience that we can be very helpful and useful. This is a way to get it at a discount between now and next Friday. You can use your support pack, as I said, for any purpose in reporting and data management, any of the stuff that MasterMine touches on, and your units never expire. So just because you buy them today doesn't mean they have to be used this week or this month. It's not. There's no user to lose it. You just we just hold them on account until you've used them up. If you've got support, by the way, or you think you've got support that you have not used, let us know. We can tell you how many units you've got available to you, and you can go from there and engage us for help with whatever you need to do. Okay, so that is the special. We'll now do Q&As. At the very end of this whole thing, we're actually going to, as we always do with our end user sessions, we will give away a free half-hour consultation. which is your opportunity to have us, dig into your GoldMine data with you. Just have the experts who know about GoldMine and know about MasterMine dig in and look at and analyze your data with you and figure something out, or create a report for you, or whatever it is. We will offer that at the very end after we handle the Q&A. So with that, I want to give Carnegie, if we've got reports here that people would like to work or like us to answer, we'll go ahead and handle those. Oh, excuse me, I did have one sort of pre-assigned one. Carnegie, let me just, as a preview, do we have many questions? Have you looked?
We haven't really. There's something I would like to bring up
okay.
I think would be helpful when creating reports. I'm holding two phones at once, sorry.
Okay.
Didn't know which one I was talking on. When you're checking on, well, it's actually two things. When you're clicking on the fields that you're interested in, could you let people know what the C1s, C2s, OMs, and whatnot are showing up?
Did I glide past that? Okay, let me go back to there.
I don't remember hearing it.
So yeah, that is a good point, especially if I glided past it. So whatever you choose at the top dictates the tables, the sort of general area that the data comes from. But then within the field list here, we designate which table that field belongs to. So C1 means the contact, that's the contact field in the contact one table. Sorry, that's the contact field in the contact one table, or the company field in the contact one table. If you don't know what tables your fields are in, that's okay. Broadly speaking, contact one is your fields that are at the top. Contact two are, let's say, your additional user-defined fields that you've added that also typically show up either at the top here or show up on a fields tab down below in GoldMine. That can be in either place. And other fields from other tables, so for example, email is actually not a field at the contact level. Your primary email addresses and your secondary email addresses exist in a separate table, which we label here EM, meaning they're just the email records from, technically from the concept table. But all of the, every field that's in this list will be labeled both with a table designator as well as the actual name of the field. And by the way, it's the name of the field as you know it in GoldMine. So what you should see here is the field labels, even though record type in GoldMine is technically called key 1 at the database level and industry is key 2, you'll see them in the MasterMine dialog labeled just the way you know them. Okay, so good question.
And my other thing I wanted to bring up, finding fields in that can be a bit difficult at times because they are not in alphabetical order.
So there is an alphabetical button here so that you can find them easier. So everyone that's not checked on, if you hit the A to Z button, will be in alphabetical order within table. You can actually change that. You can specify that I really want all my fields sorted together regardless of where they're from, in which case the checked off ones will again still be at first, but then everything else in your list will be alphabetical by field name. Oops, did I just do them backwards? Oh, I'm sorry. That does the contact fields together. So the EM ones are still all first, but then this takes your contact 2 and contact 1 fields. If you don't know whether it's user defined or not, you can see them alphabetically by both. Okay, so and back to my sort of set question that I had: assigning and managing MasterMine licenses. If you have users, and this comes up every once in a while, if you have MasterMine licenses that are not assigned to a particular GoldMine user, let us know and we'll help you assign it to somebody. We'll get MasterMine installed on the appropriate machine. It's covered by your annual maintenance, so there's no extra charge for doing that, and we'll get that person licensed. If, however, you own, let's say, 5 MasterMine licenses, and one of them was assigned to somebody who left the company, you want to reassign it to someone who is new to the company, that can also be done. And the way it's done essentially is you release the old license by removing, I'll just sort of tell you quickly, but we can look at it in detail another way. Essentially you find a file in the GoldMine application folder called their username.msn. So if their username was John, it would be john.msn. It's a hidden file in the GoldMine application folder, so you need to be able to view hidden files. But find john.msn there, delete it, and that frees up John's license to then be used to license a different user in the MasterMine license dialog. So if you've got MasterMine installed and you're running it in demo mode, essentially for a new user, you would install it. They can run it in demo mode, and as soon as when they do it in demo mode, they have an option of licensing. So you click on the License Now button, put in John's old license number, and hit register, and that new user is good to go. Okay, so that's new licenses. Carnegie, any other questions that have come up?
We do. Donna is asking, can I add information to an already existing report from that information section, not the field section? Or do I have to start a new report and build from the onset? Example, you select pending activities to create a report, and I want at a later date to add some info from details.
No. So pending activities are pretty much any pending activity report that you create is going to include this is sort of a technical answer, but it's going to include information from certain tables, namely the CAL table and the Contact 1 and Contact 2 tables. If you then want to add information from the details, the difficulty there is your details are, that's a one-to-many kind of a relationship in GoldMine. So you wouldn't want to have a many-to-many relationship happening between your calendar records, your many calendar records that can be associated with an account, and your many detail records that can be associated with it. Now that said, if there is sort of a special logical relationship, so for example, you know for a fact that there's only one of a particular detail associated with any given GoldMine record, it is possible by manipulating the underlying query directly to go back and actually grab information from that detail record. I'm not going to cover that in this episode here because that's a fairly complicated thing to do. Suffice it to say that if you want us to do that under support, we can do that and pretty quickly in the course of a 15-minute unit, link in that other information logically from a detail record, from a known detail record of a certain structure. And, as long as you follow your rules within GoldMine to do that, then the report itself would make sense for you. So I hope that sort of answered the question. Basically, it's hard to do reporting across, let's say, calendar or history and details because of that many-to-many relationship that's there. But if you're actually using the data in a way that restricts it so you don't actually have many-to-manys, we can work around it. Anything else there? Any other questions? Go ahead and post any questions that you have. I'm going to stay on as long as you've got them. I understand that people may not have come here with a lot of questions ready to go. So Carnegie, anything else you see on questions?
I just want to let you know that you did answer Donna's question.
Awesome. Okay.
That's good.
All right. So without going too terribly far past the limit here, we have, I think, covered the questions. Let's go ahead to our final section here where we're going to do the attendee. And while she's doing that, I want to thank everybody for being on the call with us today and learning your basic tips on using MasterMine. Carnegie, I assume you're spinning the wheel or digging in the coffee can or whatever it is you do to pick your winner. And I'll let you come back on. Oh, and let me, you know what, I don't think I need to even bring back the slide there. I'll just leave us where we are. So go ahead. A drum roll, please.
We'll draw the name and then we have another question. So.
Okay.
Okay, so today's winner is Nicole Storto, if I'm saying your last name right, Nicole.
Okay, Nicole, congratulations. You're a big winner. You can use this half-hour free consultation by the end of next month, so by the end of May. So just Carnegie will call you up and schedule that. Sorry, Carnegie, I just sort of jumped in. But
Nope, that's totally fine.
Awesome.
So I will give Nicole a call after this. And our question, can you add the notes field to a report?
Yes, absolutely. So let's just take as an example our forecast sale report. So let's say you had a even better would be sort of a line listing report. So let's take I'll reform this into a line listing report. So here's our 2014. And we'll just do Tina's sales, and we're already listing the month that it's in, but actually let's even do better. Let's take our October sales for Tina, and I think this is going to help you some. So now, of course, I didn't include the notes when I created this report originally, right? So I want to have some level of detail in here, maybe the company and the contact that we're going to do this sale to, and maybe the product that they're going to buy. And then the other question is, okay, but what about the note that's in that additional, or what the note in that sale record? So to add that, I'm going to go to Add Field here. And by the way, you could have added the notes when you created the report originally, but you do need to specify that that's what you want to have. Now, notes, you won't find alphabetized under N. You will find them alphabetized under a table indicator and then the notes. And the reason for that is there are notes and there are notes. So within a GoldMine record, you know you have a notes tab. Your notes tab, those notes are associated with the contact level. So those are called, we call those C1 notes because they're at the contact level of your GoldMine. And then you have subnotes. You have notes of under pending activities, notes under history activities, notes under opportunities. Actually, there's 2 different flavors of notes under opportunities, or 3 different flavors, I think. Under cases, I think there are 4 different flavors of notes. So there's lots of different notes that you might pull from GoldMine, but as long as you've got a report that includes the table that has those notes in it, you can add those notes after the fact, just the way I'm doing here. And I'll go ahead and hit OK. So it was really just a matter of specifying the table and which notes, and then the notes field from that table. And so the notes here are actually the first 253 characters of the notes have been added as a field. And we'll talk about that here in a moment. Now, if I've got, unfortunately, I don't have any actual notes in these records, but let's do this. I'll drill through and just put some notes, actually put a note into that record on the GoldMine side. So I'm selecting it. I'm going to edit the activity. I'm going to say these are some notes. So just so you can see that I've saved that in there, I'm going to go back to Excel. And by the way, this is also just by way of illustrating, how quickly can we actually get data into a report. So refresh against the GoldMine data, and there are the notes that I put in there. So if I had done some long notes, it would just show the first 253 characters of it, but here you see the sort of simple stuff. By the way, for those of you who think, oh, well, GoldMine sale records don't allow you to save enough data, there's not enough fields in there, you can put information into your notes tab, and there's an infinite amount of information you can go in there. And if you want to just display it as a raw kind of note like this, that works. I was working with somebody else this morning who wanted to be able to actually add several fields to their notes tab, to their notes record. And what we did was we just put some delimiters into the notes and allowed them to actually put the information into GoldMine into the notes, separated by those delimiters, and then in their MasterMine report we could actually pull them as though they were individual fields and do all the same kinds of reporting that you can do with other standalone fields in GoldMine. So that's kind of a long answer to a short question, but it's really a valuable thing to know about. Any other questions that have come up?
That is all we have at this time.
Okay, well, I very much appreciate. It looks like just about everybody who attended here stayed with us till the end. So hopefully that means that you found this a really useful session. Again, don't forget to take advantage of the support pack discount. Do it by next Friday. If you need a little time to get some approval on it, make sure you get your approvals before then, so that you can do your purchase before then. Love to work with you online to more efficiently get at your GoldMine data, to fix it up or do your reporting or whatever it's going to be. All right, thanks everybody. Thank you, Carnegie, very much for your help today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you.